and welcome to episode 5 of Really Bad Security. Today, this is going to be a super interesting one and maybe a slight change from how the previous episodes have been, because we're going to talk a little bit more about your business and how your business operates and things that you are spending money on and maybe things that you're overspending money on. We are pleased to be joined by Rick Kilcoyne, Matthew Hallahan, and Andy Duell from CloudBolt. And the conversation is going to be, again, a lot about what are you spending on cloud? Are you overspending on cloud? And if you are potentially wasting your company's resources, is that stopping you from being able to afford some of the security products or projects that you're working on? So Rick, with that, I'm going to pass things over to you, let you introduce your team and introduce CloudBolt to us a little bit. And then let's talk a little bit about what you're seeing from an overspend in what people are doing in the cloud.
Yeah, thank you. So glad to be here, and just want to introduce Matt and Andy here with CloudBolt. Today, we are really going to focus on CloudBolt's ability to sort of handle that post-deploy aspect of cloud visibility and optimization. So CloudBolt as a company is focused on the full deployment lifecycle for workloads in the cloud. That means pre-deploy, setting up the guardrails, giving users the self-service access, deploy, providing them with the integration platform, and then post-deploy, providing them with the visibility and optimization to see what those workloads are doing, track them, making sure they're compliant and being used properly and optimally. So with that, that's a quick spiel on CloudBolt, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, sounds good. And like I said, I think if we go back 5, 6, 7 years, I remember the conversations of, well, put it in the security budget. Security always has money. Any project you want to do, is there a security angle to it? Because if we can make this a security project, we know it will get approved. I think if you look at 2020, I'm having a lot more conversations now where that's just simply not the case. Not only are the extra projects not being able to be stuffed into a security budget, security budgets themselves are actually being highly scrutinized and even cut in some cases. Certainly some of that is pandemic related. Some of it, I think, is just the fact of people having spent lots of money and not sure that they're always getting the return on it. Now, one of the best ways to have extra budget is to ensure that you're not spending or overspending on stuff that you already have, especially stuff that is just like operational type costs, right? And as we look at the cloud, I think a lot of companies, I also remember the conversations of the cloud's going to be cheaper, right? That was kind of the original, it's going to be cheaper and easier and faster. And I think we got all of those except for the cheaper part of it. Which in a lot of cases, we got quite the opposite of it. So Rick, can you talk a little bit about what you're seeing out there from, what is a typical company maybe overspending? How much are they overspending? What are you guys seeing in that space?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So there's certainly budget to be freed up in public cloud in almost every environment. That especially amongst the customers that we're seeing and speaking with. I'll go back to a quick story of when I first looked at our Cumulus product. First tried that out. I mean, I pointed it at our internal development cloud, and lo and behold, there was a lot of spend to optimize. There was unused resources alone were making up, probably up to 20–25% of what we were spending in public cloud. Now that's probably an excessive scenario, but it was there, and we were able to immediately free up that budget and put it to work elsewhere. And that's just on resources that weren't even being used anymore. It was detached volumes, load balancers that were sitting around going unused. Unused RDS instances. Just by turning those up, we were able to optimize our spend within hours and free up dollars. So from that perspective, there's always money to spend to free up there. Then you get into actual workload optimization. Are you using the right sizes of your instance types in the public cloud? Are you are you right size is what we call it. Are you spending too much on those resources? So there's many ways to sort of look at that.
So let's dive into that one, that second piece there a little bit more. Um, so people are going out, and Anthony and Lloyd certainly chime in here because you guys are much more connected to this than I am. But from my understanding, someone is going out, they're going to put a workload or an application or something in the cloud. They're going out there procuring X number of resources from a memory processor storage standpoint for this cloud application or process, and then they're maybe speccing that out more than what it actually ends up needing to run. Am I catching that correctly?
Yeah, absolutely. And ask any developer or ops person, how much CPU they need. You're always going to get an answer of probably
More,
more.
probably. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So, right,
So
because I mean, at the crux of this is, I don't want to use the word problem, but I don't know of another word to use at this moment. So it's a people problem, right? Because these clouds are optimized, and there are cases, or many cases, where things run better in that scenario or in that environment than they do on-prem. So if you spec something one for one as you would run on-prem, you're usually going to get an overly provisioned, instance. And so, to fix that problem with something like a cumulus to go in and take a look and see where that is, uh, like I think somebody has already said, free money, right?
I mean, that's what it sounds like. It sounds like there's money that's out there that, I mean, it's not serving any purpose at all, spending it, right? If you've got all these unused resources that are never being touched, there's no value in that for you as an organization, right? So Rick, do you have, not holding you to any numbers, but do you have, I mean, you threw out that 25% number from your own personal experience, but what is CloudBolt seeing as, say, an average in the medium, let's just go with like medium-sized businesses, as far as like, what are you guys typically finding when you're going out and doing the investigation?
I would say anywhere between 15 and 20% of cloud waste out there. These are resources being spent that aren't necessarily being used. They're idle. They're completely unused or detached, and just ready for reaping.
So then, Anthony and Lloyd, I'll throw this question back to you guys, and you certainly don't have to speak specifically about your own organizations, but just in general, from being people still in the trenches, what sort of impact would a 15%, let's say 15% reduction on cloud spend mean for your overall IT and security budgets?
Anthony, you want me to go first? All right. So yeah, I think for at least in my situation, at least where I am, I think that enables the business to do a lot more things. I mean, that 20% can be quite a bit. So we get a lot of requests to do these one-off things, or to do like, hey, we got this system we're bringing into healthcare, and it's this, as healthcare IoT things tend to go, or whatever it is that's cloud functioning. Tends to require a little bit more setup, or things get spun up and then left out there forever. So I think for us, it would be able to say, reap those dollars back, and then be able to do that one extra thing in the project that they didn't want to do. They need this one extra system spun up. Guess what? We just found 20% over here for you. So that's fantastic. At least for us, I think it'll enable business to do more than they can do today, while keeping the costs down on the amount of infrastructure that we spin up and have to support for 30 years, and nobody knows what it is anymore. What about you, Anthony?
Yeah. In my organization that's rapidly growing, you can imagine it's very easy to overspend on accident. We're always, integrating new systems, spinning up new systems, and if any of those are cloud workloads, at the rate and pace we have to go to accomplish some of the things we have to do, it's very easy to overspend. So to have that insight, to make sure that we're as optimized as possible is, I wouldn't say just valuable, it's key to our process at this point.
So Rick, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, and it's kind of an ongoing process, right? Like it's not something you're like, oh, let's check it once a month to get a feel whether or not we're over or under. It's like a day-to-day process. It's like, if a workload runs out of control over the weekend, like you need to know that immediately, because at the end of the month, every month, like the Terminator, come knocking on the door is that AWS bill. No remorse, no sorrow. Like it's like time to pay up, and whatever happened that month is in the past, and you're paying for. So the goal is when the Terminator shows up, like to make that as predictable as possible when you open that door.
Yeah, I see benefits for us too in areas like research or some of the data analytics spaces where they need to spin up a cloud workload to do something. And in current state, without any sort of way to monitor that spend, it gets spun up and left there. And some of those research instances, when they spin them at the cloud, can be very, very expensive. They've got a lot of provisioned resources to them, and then they get left running. So having this kind of visibility would not only be good for security, but also good for the spend as well.
Yeah, so that's an interesting angle too, having unused workloads that are just sitting out there that no one is paying attention to or changing passwords on or monitoring or maintaining could also certainly, I would think, leave some potential vulnerabilities in your environment as well.
Sure. If people don't know they're there and they're not patching them, but they're still running, there's inherent risks there.
Yeah, that's a great point. So Rick, let me play devil's advocate a little bit here. So let's say I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, oh, I probably am overspending on some of my cloud stuff. I'm just going to go out there and manually check all of these things, and I'm not going to spend any money on any sort of a solution to do this. I'm just going to go and I'll just spend the time and do it. What's the CloudBolt response to those sorts of conversations, or do you see those conversations?
I would refer back to what I just said a few minutes ago. Like, are you going to do it every day? Are you going to do it once a week? How often are you going to do it? So how are you going to continuously monitor and watch that environment to see that cost? Like the monitoring business today is less about CPU usage and disk usage, and it's more about what is it actually costing? Like, what are the dollars and cents? So it's an ongoing basis, and you really have to keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on sort of continuously.
So let's talk about that process that you guys are using it's Cumulus, right? It's the name of the product that can assist with this. So talk me through what is the process of say, running a POC, or just the implementation, the long term. What platforms are you guys able to support? Can I look across my entire cloud at the same time? Give me a little bit of that rundown.
Yeah, sure. So right now we support AWS and Azure for cost optimization. For security and compliance and continuous governance, we currently have full support for AWS with Azure support coming in quite soon, next couple months. So we'll be growing to GCP over the course of 2021 to cover that cloud as well. Also adding support for internal data center costing as well. So being able to provide that insight over your own vCenter environment, because as people get sort of more accustomed to that sort of ephemeral computing model that you see in the cloud, being able to provide that pricing and show back in the internal cloud as well, on-prem as well. So that's where we're going with the Cumulus product. It provides a continuous look on those environments, so it's constantly scanning, watching those costs, projecting those costs outwards. So, as often as you want, you can come in and take a look and see where you are on your spend path for that month. And you can also be proactive about it. So Cumulus can also reach back out to you and let you know when something is amiss, a budget is on track to be blown, or you saw an spending anomaly, something along those lines, or an idle resource is discovered. Cumulus can reach out to the owner of that resource and say, "Hey, is this what you want to be doing here?" and allow them to take action right there at the point of sale, so to say.
So architecturally, how does CloudBolt or Cumulus or your product interact with AWS, Azure? Are you plugging into an API? How and what permissions are required And what are you guys doing to ensure the security of your product as well, since you have so much visibility into my environments?
Yep, absolutely. It's all cloud native. It's a well architected application that lives out in AWS. So you provide it with permission to access your account via an IAM role with the appropriate permissions, which is usually, I think, Cost Explorer, billing, and maybe a couple others depending on the type of action you want to take. Similar, translate the language over to Azure, same sort of idea. But once that's set up, CloudBolt Cumulus does a initial scan, which takes a little while to get all that data in. But once it's in, it's continuously watching it and continuously scanning and pulling that information in and reporting it against and sort of aggregating it up on a day-to-day basis, hour by hour basis.
All right.
You must have answered that pretty well, because honestly, Anthony, he was like, okay, and that doesn't happen.
That does not happen often.
He's our resident bulldog. We keep him around for a reason. Are you able to see, let's say, I know an issue for a lot of companies is when new cloud instances get sprung up that they have no idea about. So the fact that you guys are doing this auditing, are you also able to capture, say, hey, somebody spun up something new as well?
We can, and that sort of again speaks to that continuum across all our products. So the CloudBolt CMP was, sort of groundbreaking in that front to be able to discover and find resources as they were being provisioned. So to this day, we still have that capability on that front end side to go out and find new workloads that have been spun up, but we also still do it on the post-deploy side because, hey, let's face it, what if someone, we live in a multi-tool world now. What if someone uses some other tool, Terraform, ServiceNow, some other vector for provisioning cloud resources? How do we detect those and report on that? That's where Cumulus comes into play with that post-deploy story that says, hey, it's out there. Let me find it. Let me react to it. Let me assimilate that and report on it.
Yeah, good stuff. Okay, so have you ever seen a scenario where someone is not overspending on their cloud? Like, have you guys ever gone into a place and you've been like, whoa, you got this thing locked down pretty well?
So I've seen a lot of scenarios, a lot. Never seen that.
Never seen that one. It was a little bit of a loaded question. But
yeah, I've seen a lot of things out there, good and bad, but I've never seen something like, oh, yeah, we're good.
But I imagine too, the age of the tenants, affects that as well. If you come into somebody who, has had, their cloud workloads for 6 months, you're probably going to find less things than somebody who's been in the cloud for 4 or 5 years.
Right, and admittedly, I haven't looked at like the Netflixes of the world to see how they're running their cloud environments. I'm sure they've well, I don't know.
They probably have their own internal tools for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys should call them. Okay, well, this is all right. So a couple of takeaways from this conversation then, from what I'm seeing. So I think, and Lloyd made a great point there about how having unused instances in the cloud could potentially be a huge security risk in your environment. As Anthony said, they may not be getting patched. They're probably not being monitored, or maybe not being monitored. So there is most definitely a real security angle to not having good controls over your cloud environment. On the flip side of that, we're also talking about the ability to look at how much you're spending on your current cloud and how much you're actually just wasting. Now, in my mind, wasting money is not only just being, kind of a bad steward of your company's resources, but certainly could be really bad security as well if you are struggling to find those sorts of resources for the projects that you have. Now, Rick, I'm going to throw one more question out there to you, is that sometimes we see that, people are selling $1 million product to solve a $50,000 problem. And so while maybe the technology is spectacular, at the end of the day, it's not a risk benefit to your organization. So can you talk to me in the least amount of marketing spin possible of, looking, if organizations are looking at CloudBolt and Cumulus and what you guys are doing from a cost versus benefit analysis?
To simplify that, you have to save me more money than I'm going to spend on you.
Yeah, thanks. I use too many words.
Yeah, I mean, that's the $1 million question. So get that. So, I mean, really, what it comes down to is again, across the continuum of while I'm managing those workloads, it's cost savings and getting users connected with outcomes. First off, on the pre-deploy side. So I'm a user or I'm a developer. I need some outcome. Get me to it quickly with as little friction as possible, and ideally with as much churn as possible, which means training or reading docs or tracking docs or keeping docs up to date to tell me where I should be provisioning things and which VPC or which data store. I see that a lot. And then it goes into the integration side. That sort of once we're deploying, what does that scenario look like? Where am I saving costs there? Our OneFuse product really simplifies the integration story because what we see a lot in these large organizations is they'll have various IT products in the IT back office, as I call it. These are tools that typically end users don't directly access. Things like IPAMs, sometimes configuration managers, all those types of systems. How do I get access to this? If I have an automation initiative in my organization, what do? Do I just give all my automators upstream access to info blocks, direct access to Ansible APIs? I mean, I could, okay, but then what? Then I have all these automation projects upstream that are all completely on their own sort of product development life cycles and all dependent on these back-end IT tools. Okay, so IT decides, hey, it's time to change. We don't want to use info-blocks anymore. We have a better deal with another vendor. We want to switch it out. So now do I go upstream to all those automators and say, hey, everybody, change your APIs. Change all your APIs, change all your software. And developers are like, or those upstream teams are like, yeah, there's no way. We don't have time for this. We have a million other projects in our way. Like IT, deal with it. You're stuck with info-blocks. Okay, or you're stuck with, sorry, info-blocks. You're stuck with Blue Cat, I'll be fair. You're stuck with someone else, SolarWinds, whoever. It doesn't matter. But the idea that I can provide an isolation layer on that integration layer so that those upstream tools are talking to a consistent interface, which then mitigates those calls back to those backend tools and provides me with some with a little insulation so I could have that freedom back in IT to conduct my business the way I want to conduct it. And then on the post-deploy side, being able to go and optimize those costs, being able to wring out real dollars from deployed cloud resources on an ongoing basis, on a monthly basis, daily basis, hourly basis, if you want. So, the cost savings spreads across that entire continuum. And a lot of our customers are on this hybrid cloud journey and could be anywhere along there. They may have a little automation in place. They may be, okay, yeah, we're good with automation, but we're looking at cloud and it's out of control. We don't know how to secure it or anything like that. So we can kind of come in and meet those customers where they are on that journey.
I just say it's pretty exciting it's not often you get to go back, being in information security and say, hey, infrastructure, if you're doing a private cloud or whatever, I can save you some money. How often do you get to say, and that's what I get so excited about this, is how often you get to say in security, I can save you money. It's always, right. I'm going to cost you money. Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty awesome.
So let's say I'm someone, Rick, I'm someone that's listening to this and I go, man, this all sounds great, but I don't want to just, write a PO and dive in. Is there, so walk through your proof of concept, proof of value process a little bit and what it looks like interacting and working with CloudBolt.
Sure. The first step is work with our field team, whether it be Andy on the call here or Matt. Sort of let us know where you are in your journey. And then we can sort of map in where our product line fits. It might be if it's all pre-deploy or post-deploy, we can come in, talk to you about Cumulus. I believe, Andy, Matt, we have an offer in place to do a scan of your environment with Cumulus. If it's OneFuse, if it's an integration, if it's that integration, cross-enterprise integration story, hybrid cloud integration story, we can help you with that with OneFuse. And if it's just getting users access to the cloud, we can help with that as well with CloudBolt CMP, which provides a beautiful abstract interface for connecting users with the outcomes they want, whether they be using Terraform, whether they're using CloudFormation, Azure templates, whatever mechanism is used internally. And by the way, usually all of them are being used somewhere. We can take those, wrap those, and turn those into clean, easy blueprints that users can access for the outcomes they desire.
Yeah, Rick, I'll kind of bring to the light as well on the Cumulus piece, which again is our cost optimization and security visualization tool. It is the season of giving. So a promotion that we're running right now is if you'll allow us read access only to your public clouds, we can go in, we can scan those environments, and we can return a report to you that is right now we're going to guarantee a 20% cost savings off the top in your public cloud. If we are incorrect, we are going to donate $1,000 to a charity of your choice. So it's really a matter of putting our money where our mouth is. Something I wanted to add on to Anthony and Lloyd, you were saying earlier, what is a 10%, 15%, 20%? What does that actually mean, right? Kind of a big number that I always call back to. It kind of makes customers, the hair on the back of their neck stand up. Two things that Gartner reported on last year from a pre-provisioning and a misconfiguration perspective. 1/3 of all security attacks are caused by shadow IT and misconfiguring workloads, right? Something's on the wrong network, on the wrong on the wrong storage bucket, right? And then also from a more aggregate perspective on what's being wasted out there, right? Amazon, Azure, GCP, great organizations, great technology, very philanthropic organizations, but do we really need to be, letting them dig their hands further into our pockets? Gartner reported more than $14 billion wasted in idle public cloud resources last year. So again, when you can come in and tell that story and actually say, hey, look, I'll give you a visualization report of exactly where your idle resources are and where your overprovision resources are, and here's how you can build some automation logic into that. It's a really impactful story, and customers are really resonating with it.
Yeah, and look at that offer, pretty good. Well, we will make sure that we put some more details in the details section. Right? That's the YouTube term, right? Detail section. I'm still pretty new to that.
The description.
Yeah, close enough.
All right, well, guys, Anthony, Lloyd, anything else?
Not for me.
I think this is a pretty fascinating conversation. I mean, those of you that are listening, if you're worried about your cloud spend, if your management is pestering you as to how much you're spending, or why do your costs keep going up, or why do we continue to not know how much we're spending, or you're simply just looking as ways of saving some money to be able to pay for some other projects that you're looking at, or you're worried about the security of your organization and how much stuff you have just sitting out there that's being unused, I think this is a conversation with CloudBolt that you should most definitely look at having. Not doing those things, and honestly, is really bad security, to coin a phrase. So with that, Rick, Matt, Andy, I really appreciate you guys doing this. Again, we'll have some more details about some of the promotions that they're offering in the details section. As always, like, subscribe, share. Everyone out there on YouTube, please do that for us. And we will see you again for episode number 6. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.